Hello ladies and gents, welcome to another video. A few days ago I posted a video on a motherboard which Steve from TronicsFix sent me, and he challenged me to try and repair that board. Just a little warning, I am going to spoil the outcome of that video, so if you haven't watched it yet, there's a link up here right now. Go and check that out first. I highly recommend it just so you can get some context for that particular repair. I don't want to spoil the video, so click off this one, go and watch that one, then come back to this one. But essentially what happened was he sent me a board and he challenged me to fix it, and unfortunately I couldn't fix it. If you don't know who Steve is, by the way, I'll leave a link in the video description to his channel and in the top pinned comment as well. But essentially I couldn't fix that board, and unfortunately I couldn't really figure out the issue. I thought it was an internal short on the motherboard, but I could be wrong and I don't know 100%. It's just that it keeps on showing up as short. And I've been reading the comments for a few days. That video has done amazingly well. Over 200,000 views already and still climbing. So a massive thank you for that. But I have been reading the comments and I've also been taking notes. And one particular person said that every time he's had this issue where we have all of the MOSFETs around the power phases shorted, it's always the APU. So whether that's true, I don't know. Do we have the ability to do something about that? Absolutely. So I hold in my, I hold now in my other hand, I hold a replacement APU. I showed this APU on the last video, and this is all pre-balled, it's ready to go. It's ready to just literally drop onto a board. So I've reballed this from another motherboard. This APU, 90% chance works. And the reason I say that is because it comes from a motherboard which someone essentially damaged the 5-volt connector on the board, and then when they tried to fix that, they damaged the board even further, and I couldn't fix the board. The board literally did end up with an internal short because they dug into the board. So I took the APU off a few weeks ago and I reballed it along with all of the other corresponding chips to be able to put onto a motherboard when I need it. No, that's not economically viable, it's just fun to do. So I reballed it, everything's ready. I've got 6 chips inside this little ESD packet here, and they are pretty much ready to go onto a board. So I'm going to be doing that on TronicsFix's board. I'm going to try and put the APU from this one onto this one and see if I can get it working. It's kind of like Trigger's Broom at that point. Is it the same board? Yes and no. But yeah, if it is an internal short on the APU itself, then replacing the APU should technically fix that. So that's what we're going to try today. But if you are new to the channel and you like this type of content, I would really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and turn on the bell notifications. That way you don't miss any future videos. And if you do want to support me in any way, I've got a Twitch channel which I stream on regularly. You can head over there, and if you've got an Amazon Prime account, you can give me a Twitch Prime subscription. Completely free for you to do, but it does massively, massively help me out. There's also some other links in the video description to other ways that you can support me as well. But with that being said, it's round 2, Mr. TronicsFix. Let's get it. Right, so as you can see here, we have a set of APU, well, the APU and the other chips that we need. So we've got the APU itself, we've got the Renesas chip, which is the disk drive chip here. We've also got the secondary RAM chips there and there, and we've got the NOR flash ROM and Syscon as well. So those chips all need changing. Like I said, I've reballed all of them ready, and yeah, it's pretty much ready to go. Other than the fact that I do need to rebuild this board a little bit. In the last video, I removed all of these because it was showing up as short on the F6202 area, and I traced that back to here. When I injected voltage into here, these chips here were getting hot, and they were getting hot when I initially powered up the board as well. So I removed all these chips and the short didn't clear. Yeah, we need to rebuild this section first. So the APU that I plan to use is going to come off this donor board here, and I'm also going to take the chips off this donor board as well. So all of the chips that I've taken off, I'm going to take off here and put onto here, because the person who had this board, it ended up being donated to me, but yeah, you can kind of see what they did to it. They absolutely destroyed it. But yeah, that's essentially what I'm going to be doing to this, and hopefully it's going to get it working. So I need all of these chips here and some surrounding components from this chip here as well. But theoretically, everything on this board should technically work. So basically we're turning this board into this board. But yeah, I'm going to do some chip swaps from here to here, and rebuild this board with working components. Let's go under the microscope. Okay, that seems good. And now it's on to that bad boy right there. So we're going to need to use a specialist piece of equipment for this called a BJ rework machine. And the reason for that is because of the amount of solder balls on this and the size of the actual chip itself. So the problem is if you use hot air is you can technically take it off in theory, but by the time it all heats up to a point where every single solder ball is melted, you've either killed the chip or you've killed the board, you've delaminated the board or something like that. So realistically we need to use a BJ machine, so we can use a really big infrared hot air machine, sorry, not hot air, infrared heat gun rather, and heat it up with infrared instead so as it evenly distributes heat around the board. And yeah, that allows us to take the chip off, and then we can clean the pads up on the board itself and then install this freshly balled chip. So this is what I've got here, fully reballed, ready to go. Let's do it. So the first thing I need to do is just clean off the thermal paste, because otherwise it's not going to distribute heat evenly. So I'll clean off the thermal paste on this board or on this chip, and the reason for that is even though I have a suspicion that it could potentially be a dead APU, I don't want to kill the chip, because if it's not, then I could potentially make another video and put this chip and the surrounding components or the paired components on another board. Maybe. It depends if I actually get a board that's able to be used for that specific use case. Alright, so there's that, nice and clean. All of the thermal paste is off, and it's pretty much ready for this chip to be removed. So let's just dry that. Not that it matters, just doing it anyway, but we'll just dry that. And then I'm going to add some flux all around the chip, just like that. And then I'm going to get this on the BJ machine. I'm going to have to switch over to my phone for this, so my phone's camera, because I don't have a camera set up on my BJ machine. So I'll switch over to my phone and I'll show you the process for removing the chip itself. Right, okay, so this is my BJ machine, and what this is going to do is it's going to evenly distribute some heat across the bottom of the board so as it transfers through. And then what's going to happen is the top plate will eventually kick in and it will heat up just the APU here. And by doing that, because this is all infrared heat and it's all very controlled, I'll be able to essentially remove this chip safely without damaging the board. So I'm going to line that up there, and then just got to position it so as the chip is underneath the top plate, just like that, and then press start. and the bottom plate will kick in to 220 degrees, and then once that's done, the top plate will kick in and it will heat up the top of the chip as well. So yeah, that's the plan. I'm going to pause the video and I'll pick up when I'm just about to lift the chip off the board. The thermal coupler on the top is reading 190 and it stops at 200 degrees Celsius. So that should hit around about, okay then, yeah, it's fairly close. It's about 8 degrees out in terms of the temperature, the actual temperature, and when it kicks into the next stage, which isn't bad. I mean, that's dialed in pretty well considering I've not touched this for a couple of years in terms of settings. I'm just going to keep tapping the chip now. And as soon as I see that chip move, I'm going to move the actual top plate out of the way so as I can lift the chip off. But we should be real close to getting this off now. It's actually incredibly rare for it to have to go on this long. Okay, I did just nudge it and it has come off, but yeah, that took a lot longer than it should have done, to be honest. But there's the chip removed, and all I need to do now is just let this board cool down. Don't worry about the smoke, that's completely normal. It's not going to catch fire, but even if it does, I have got a fire extinguisher very, very close by. So we are completely safe. I'm going to let this board cool down, then I'll bring it back over to the workbench and we'll carry on. Okay, here we go. So the board's back on the workbench here, as you can see. That's the chip that I'm putting on. I haven't moved the other chip from over on the other side of the workshop because it's still hot, and yeah, there's no need to anyway. So what I'm going to do now then is I'm going to remove all of the lead-free solder from here. So I'm going to basically wick all of the solder pads away so as it's nice and flat, and I'll do that by adding some leaded solder to it. I'm going to use some of my cheaper solder because number one, it's thicker, and number two, it's a lot cheaper than Kester, and because I'm wicking it all away anyway, I don't really want to waste it. But as you can see here, we've got the BGA. There's a lot of solder balls on here and we need to clean all of these off. So we'll do that with some solder braid. So I'll add some flux, and I'm going to turn the fume extractor on because there's going to be a lot of smoke now. With a nice big juicy tip on, just going to flood the area with some leaded solder in a ball and then just run over it with the iron. So that's good to go. However, we need to add some conformal coating to all of these areas which are potentially going to cause any issues going forward. So that means all of these copper coloured pads and all of the silver coloured pads, they're all going to need conformal coating on them. Just a really thin layer. So I'll take some solder braid. So I'll take some mechanic conformal coating on my tweezers and just pile it up just off to the side here. This is the blue conformal coating. You can get different colours. The one I'm using here is blue. It doesn't really make a difference on colour, apart from it takes longer to penetrate light through it when we cure it with UV light. But essentially what I need to do is just take little dabs of it and just do this with it. So just coat everything with a thin layer of conformal coating, solder mask, whatever you want to call it. It's basically like a glue for PCBs. We don't want too much on there, just enough to prevent the solder from overspilling. So you'll notice that I'm going to be taking some off that I've already put down and putting it somewhere else just to evenly distribute it. That's not meant to be there. It doesn't take long, it's just tedious. So also any of these what I call the tadpole effect, where it kind of looks like a tadpole. We need to do the same for those as well. So now I just need to take my UV light and cure everything. So I've got this big light here. These are about £9 off AliExpress. And as you can see, it covers a very large area. So I'm just going to hold this over here for like 5 minutes or so. And just basically get all of this cured. Alright, so once that's done a little bit, I can just use a bit of hot air to assist it. And that'll cure it a lot faster. There we go, that'll do it. That'll do it nicely. Alright, so back under the scope and we are pretty much ready. So I'm going to add some flux to this. Spread it around, nice even layer of flux. It doesn't need too much flux, but we want a nice healthy amount. And then I'm going to just take that APU, this freshly balled APU. Look at that, it looks beautiful. And I'm going to drop this on the board, making sure that I get the pin orientation correct. Okay, time to put this back on the BGA machine. Okay, so here we go then. This is pretty much ready. I'm just going to start the process, and we're going to use the exact same profile for reflowing this chip back onto the board. So we can see the solder balls under there. Well, sort of. And they should be pretty lined up. It looks like the chip's not flat, but it is. It's absolutely fine. Nothing at all wrong with that. So we're going to wait for this to sit down. Once it's sat down and it's nice and flush with the board, then it'll pretty much be ready to go. And hopefully the last 2 hours are going to pay off. I'll pause the video and I'll pick up when it's about ready to actually sit down. Okay, time to move the hot air out. Sorry, the infrared heat rather, not hot air. And stop the process. So I've stopped the process. The chip appears to be soldered okay. So all I need to do now is just let that cool down naturally, and then we're pretty much good for testing, I think. So while the board's still quite warm, I'm just going to clean up the board again. I can ultrasonic it later on, like I said, but I'm just going to clean up the APU so as I can put some thermal paste on it. I don't want to use too much IPA though, because I'm going to be ultrasonicking the board anyway, and IPA is quite expensive. I'm just going to get rid of the majority of the burnt flux from around here. It's always best to ultrasonic it when you're doing BGA work though, if you can. You know, if you've got access to an ultrasonic cleaner, you're better off using it. Let's add some thermal paste, the perfect amount. So is it going to turn on, or have I completely destroyed it? Either way, this video will make it out, no matter what. But wouldn't it be amazing if TronicsFix loses? No, TronicsFix is a good guy. He's done so much for my channel. But he's got to lose this bet. Not allowed to move that post-it note until I beat him. A constant reminder that right now he's the winner. Ooh. Anyone see that magic smoke? Huh. What the? That come from the disk drive circuit. Well, that's not good, is it? Looks like we've got a disk drive issue on this board, but not related to the APU. So I got a blue light initially. Then I don't think it would have shown on the video because I was facing the wrong way on the with the console. But I initially got a blue light, and then it let out a little bit of magic smoke, and then it wouldn't turn on. Or now it won't turn on. Let's just remove the Renesas chip. So I completely pull that out of circuit. And I think the magic smoke come from here somewhere. Possibly this chip here. So might end up needing to remove that as well. But let's just see, without Renesas on there. Just for the record, by the way, Renesas is the disk drive controller. So it's what controls the disk drive. It's paired to the disk drive, or rather it's paired to the APU, and without that you can't update it. You can't even install an operating system at all, unless you're on firmware version 3.0 or below. I think it's 3.0. It's either 3.0 or 4.5, one of those two. But yeah, there was a point when you didn't need a disk drive to actually accept an update, and you could use it as digital when you had a faulty drive. But then Sony was like, no, we're not allowing that. No, now you need a disk drive, so you have to buy a new one when your Renesas chip fails. But hey, that's just Sony for you, right? Yeah, it's gone poof, and now it's not attempting to power on at all. So it was one of these chips here. It was either this chip here or this chip here where the magic smoke come out of. So let's just try removing those. I'll do it while it's inside the housing. It's not a big deal, as long as the heat is focused. Yeah, it's definitely that chip. You know something? That could have been the original fault, because that just basically popped off. Wow. So that APU might be good. Right, now is it going to attempt to power on? No. Oh, hang on. I don't have the LED plugged in. But I don't think it's going to attempt to power on anyway. Oh, it does. It attempts to power on. Yeah, but we still get the 2-second blood. I don't think that chip is needed. And I don't think Renesas is needed as well. What I could do is I could install a new Renesas, or a replacement Renesas, should I say. Not a new one. So I'll just take one from another board. In this case, I'll take it from the original board. Or rather, I'll put the original one back on. Actually, no. I think what I'll do is I think I'll put one off a donor board onto it. So I'll do this without the microscope. It's not really needed. Alright, so there's a replacement Renesas. So this is just for confirmation pretty much. I just want to see if it attempts to power on. I wouldn't be able to install software with... Ow! That's hot. I wouldn't be able to install software with that particular Renesas chip on it. However, it would give me confirmation and potentially prompting me to put TronicsFix's APU and stuff onto another board if these still don't turn on. So there's that component there. and then there's also going to be this one here. So if it still don't turn on when I put the chip, one of these chips back on, this little transistor here, then it means we've definitely got an issue with the board, possibly an internal board short as I originally suspected, and maybe the APU is good. That's always a possibility. It's always a possibility that the APU is good, and then the question remains, do I want to put an APU on another board, or his APU on another board? That will be the question. Would I want to put his APU onto another motherboard? I don't know. Possibly. Okay, so that's soldered. The Renesas chip is soldered. Now the question is it going to try and turn on? Because right now we still have a 2-second blod. Or rather, I say still, we now have a 2-second blod. So with a replacement APU, we have a 2-second blod. Which, yes, it's a little bit different to before. But it's not unrelated. The issue that I found before was disk drive related, or appeared to be disk drive related, and then all of a sudden this one has a 2-second blod, but that transistor on the disk drive went poof. So yeah, I'm really not sure what to think anymore. Okay, let's give it a whirl. Is it going to go poof again? If it does, then it's definitely an internal short. Okay, it's not gone poof, but it's also not turning on. Let me just make sure we actually get 12 volts from this power supply. Yeah, we do get 12 volts. It does go off pretty quick, but we do get 12 volts on that. And I very much doubt that it's going to be anything to do with the APU, because, well, the APU should have worked on this board. Or rather, the APU that I put on this should have worked. I'm just trying a bit of pressure. No, it still doesn't work. We get the blue light, it comes on, but no, still no joy. Oh, that sucks. There's another 2 hours wasted. 5 if you include the time it took me to reboard all those chips. It is what it is. It's a bit of fun. I guess TronicsFix is still beating me, but we're going to beat you. I said to TronicsFix when he first sent this board, I said, I'm going to go to the end of the earth to get that working. And my question now to you is it still a win if I get a random donor board working with his APU, or if I get a random APU working with his board? Is it still a win? Or is it cheating? I don't know. But either way, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing it, and hopefully you enjoyed it as well. So that's going to be for this video. Unfortunately, still not able to fix it, but we're not giving up yet. One more attempt. We're going to have one more attempt at this. But yeah, that's going to be it for now. Thank you very much for watching. If you do have any comments or questions, leave them down in the comment section down below. I'll always do my best to answer. If you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications. That way you don't miss any future videos. And if you do want to buy parts and tools, check out my online store, consolefix.shop, where you can buy all of the supplies that you might need for repairing consoles. But that's going to be it for now. Thank you very much for watching. Another big thank you to TronicsFix for giving me these opportunities, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.